So I'm out in the garage today working on one more little project here for the Ram, and that is to install a AC power inverter. So you guys probably remember back in the summertime when I got that truck that I noted that there were a couple of features that had been deleted. You know, a lot of trucks are coming from the factories these days with features deleted. They say it's because of current supply chain issues and materials shortages and all that kind of stuff. So when a truck shows up at the dealership and they unload it off the semi, you never know what equipment's going to be there and what's not going to be there. Seems like this particular truck was missing two things. One of them was the under seat storage bin, which is really handy. Be nice to have one. So, I already found one of those from a guy who was selling one on the marketplace. It's an aftermarket one made by Husky, but it's actually nicer, I think, than the factory one. The other thing this truck was missing, though, is the AC power inverter. And that's super handy, especially for people like me that like to go out in the woods and camp. And, sometimes I run power tools, in various places. And my wife uses electricity for a lot of different things when she goes to her craft shows and all that. So it's nice to have some AC power. So that's the thing that we're going to work on now. I went to Harbor Freight and picked up one of these Jupiter AC power inverters. I'll give you a close-up here in just a moment. And I'm getting some wiring together here for it. So I'm going to put this in the truck and correct that issue. When they delete content from these trucks, they put a credit on the window sticker, but usually it's not nearly enough to retrofit the factory option yourself. For example, when they deleted the AC power inverter, I think they credited, I think it was $40, if I'm not mistaken. Well, you can't even buy the parts to put it in there yourself after the fact for $40. So I figured it would be a good idea to just take this opportunity to upgrade. Instead of 400 watts, which is what the factory one is, this one is 1,000 watts. So it'll give me more options. And I got this for 75 bucks at Harbor Freight. So can't go wrong there. Only thing you do have to do is make sure that you wire it up correctly. I'm going to show you what you need if you're going to be running 1,000 watts of juice off of your 12-volt system. So let me show you what I got here. So like I was saying, this is the Jupiter 1,000 watt power inverter. Now this one can do 2,000 watts of peak power. So like if you're using a power tool, a saw or something, that, sometimes things that have electric motors, they take an initial, additional amount of power to get the motor going, and then they cruise along at a lower wattage after that. So this one can handle 2,000 watts startup, but it's rated for 1,000 watts continuous power. And the cool thing is it's relatively small, so it's easy to find places to mount these in the truck. Now on the back here, obviously you have your positive and your negative, but you also have this one right here. This stud grounds the case of the inverter. So that's what I was working on here. I've got just a small wire here. Wish I had some black wire instead of red. I might just wrap it in electrical tape so that it's noted as a ground. But anyway, I'm just going to use this to ground the actual case of the inverter. And then I've got larger 2-AUG cables that we're going to use to hook this up. So here's this Husky organizer that I purchased from a guy on the Facebook marketplace. And like I said, this replaces, the one that was deleted from the factory. These Laramies should come with some kind of an under seat storage bin, but this one obviously wasn't. So I found that and I was able to retrofit that. So what I'm thinking now for this inverter, since this thing is made with a little bit of a indention here, I thought that this inverter would fit right in there like that. And that would be super nice. Now you can get to the AC outlets very easily, but at the same time, it's up off of the carpet. You don't want this thing close to the carpet because it probably will get kind of warm. It's got a fan and some ventilation underneath of it, but it's also got a fan back here, and I've got a couple of inches back there so it can cool itself well. And it just, as far as leg space goes, I think that would be a good spot for it because it won't really interfere with anything. I mean, when the seat is down, you won't even hardly notice that it's there. So I think this is going to be a good spot for it, and I don't mind drilling into this thing because it's just an aftermarket add-on anyhow. So let's put it there, and that will allow me also to run my main power cables right here, because this is the channel I want to hit to go up front to the engine compartment to hit the battery. So that'll make it real nice. I won't have to have maybe, I don't know, maybe 8 feet of cable. The instructions recommend maxing this out at 6 feet of cable, you know, but I think 8 feet, that won't hurt nothing. Got the inverter installed. Something else I was just thinking of that I may do, you know, those things that you can buy at the store to plug into your household outlets for safety. You know, so if you've got babies or young children, you know, they won't be sticking things in there and maybe getting electrocuted. Well, I thought I may get some of those to plug in here. And the reason why is we get a lot of dust and dirt throughout the summer, and you don't really want a bunch of stuff going into your outlets. Obviously, these have to stay open for cooling, but, you know, it might not be a bad idea to protect those. But anyway, it's installed, and like I said, now that it is where it is, you can't really see it. It's not affecting leg room at all. It's out of the way. That's a good spot. Now all we have to do is wire it up. As far as wiring this thing up goes, obviously the battery's over here on the driver's side on these Rams, so it'd be real nice to go through the firewall somewhere over here, wouldn't it? Don't know if the camera is going to show this, but if you look down in here behind your battery, there's a couple of rubber grommets. One of them is right over, well, kind of behind the wire harness here. I can't get the camera in there to show it. I apologize. You're just going to have to check it out yourself. But there's a rubber grommet right down in here behind this wire harness. And actually, it's for the wire harness to go through the firewall. And then there's another rubber grommet right down there. Here, let me get the flashlight and move it and see if we can get the camera around a little bit so that this will pick up. Not going to do it. Oh, yeah, there it is. Right there at the end of my flashlight. See that? At the end. Yeah, you can see it down in there. So anyway, that's a rubber grommet down in there also that goes through. And I think that one is for the emergency brake cable. Not 100% sure. Haven't crawled under the dash yet, but I think that's what that one's for. So anyway, you got a couple of rubber grommets in here that you can use. I'm just going to have to check this out in a little more detail and figure out which one I would like to go through. But whatever you do, if you start cutting holes to run additional wires, make sure that you don't cut any existing wires. You know, you don't want to hack up your factory harness. That would not be good. So be careful. Don't cut anything that's not supposed to be cut when you're making your holes. But yeah, these rubber grommets, one of these should work out good to get our wire through. And then I'm going to mount my circuit breaker probably right here on the side of this plastic battery tray. That'd be a good spot for it, easy to get to. So I'll just mount my circuit breaker there, and that way I can have a short run of positive wire right here to the terminal. And then we can head on around to the firewall. So here's the stuff I'm going to be using to wire this inverter up to the truck. So you need some 2-gauge wire because, of course, like I said, this thing is capable of pulling 1,000 continuous watts with 2,000 peak watts. So you're going to have some really robust cable. You don't want to use cable that's too small because it can heat up and then you can start a fire. So this is 2-gauge and it should be fine. You know, the easiest way to accomplish this is just to buy a set of jumper cables because they have the 2-gauge wire already in there. And you can usually get like a 20-foot section here for like $25. So this is the least expensive way to go. Plus, we're also going to have ground cable that's equal size. So I'm just going to cannibalize this set of jumper cables to get my wire. Then we've got a circuit breaker here. This one is ignition protected, as you can see right here. And that's what you want for this particular use so that it's not jumping on you and breaking the circuit every time you try to start the truck. Now you can get these in different, amp ratings. This one's 200. I tried to do the math on this, and I figure that with 2,000 peak watts on a 12-volt system, this thing theoretically could, in short bursts, pull over 150 amps. So I went ahead and got a 200 amp. This one should be pretty good because it won't be tripping all the time when I'm trying to start up power tools and that kind of thing, but it'll protect the circuit. So we're going to mount that close to the battery, and then obviously you're going to need some battery terminals or lugs here, cable lugs to put on the ends. And this kit actually came with some shrink wrap, which is cool, so I won't have to use electrical tape. So this should be all you pretty much need, and we're going to start the process of running this through the firewall and hooking everything up. You can see where I ran the wire through that rubber grommet in the firewall. And then from there, what I'm going to do is take it down through here and just run it under this channel where the existing harness is. Now these plastic pieces here are just snap fit. You can see I already took that one off. So you basically just gently lift up, straight up, and they will come unclipped. And then on these newer trucks, I haven't seen this before, but they've actually got a plastic section here. It's like a protective, I don't even know what you really want to call this thing. It's almost like a plastic tray that the harness rides in. So the way this works is you've got this tab right here that fits into that piece. Man, it's kind of hard to show you on the camera, but what I did was I took this cat claw and I went in there and just kind of pulled that out. I pulled this section right here out, and then this tab was able to release. And so I guess you have to do that all the way down through here, and then that tray will open up and you'll be able to see the wire harness in there. And I'm going to lay my new wire along the same path so that it will be protected. And I guess we'll have to do the same thing all the way back to where the inverter is mounted, but it shouldn't be too bad. At this point, I have the cable run down through the channel all the way to the back. And I've ended up using every tool in my toolbox. This is, to be honest, it's been a little bit of a project, a little more than I expected, but I got it ran back into here. And I got my cable lug on there, and you can see I got the heat shrink on there also to kind of hold it. And so now I got my ground and my positive ready to hook up to the inverter. So the hard part is done. And now all that's really left is just to come up here, mount my circuit breaker, and I'm going to have to cut this positive so I can put the circuit breaker in line there. And it should be done. You can see where I went through the firewall down there. I may end up eventually doing something with that. I'm also going to get some loom, some wire loom, protective wrap to put on this up here under the engine bay. I'm going to slide some of that on here too for extra protection. But I may end up doing something with this up under the dash. I don't know. Let's see. You can see it or not, but see where the cable comes through? So I had to cut a slit in that rubber boot. I may put a little bit of silicone or something up in there just to kind of make that weather tight again like it originally was. But yeah, this is pretty much winding down at this point. It's just been a little bit more of a project than I expected, but not too bad. And man, it's going to be nice to have electricity in the truck wherever I'm at. I want to get in here and show you how I did my ground for the inverter. You can see there that I just took some sandpaper and sanded a little area of paint off the tub of the truck, and I ran a self-tapping bolt in there, and that's how I grounded this thing back here in the back. And then of course I finally got it all hooked up here under the hood. So I decided to mount the circuit breaker to the back of this is plastic actually right here. It's not metal, this is plastic. But this is the bracket that holds the PCM. You got to be careful. You don't want your screws to be too long because you don't want them to touch the back of the PCM. But I found some little short screws that will just tap this into the plastic. So I mounted my circuit breaker there. And now it is all connected and hooked up. Let's see if it works. All right, let's plug this electric drill in. I've got this, this is my go-to drill these days. I got away from the battery powered ones because it seems like every couple of years the batteries go bad and the batteries cost as much as the drill. And most of the time when I use a drill, I'm near electricity anyway, so I just went to a corded one. So I'm gonna flip this on and the little indicator light is on. So plug it in there. Check that out. It works. Awesome. So like I said, it's just great to have electricity. You can use this for all kinds of things. You know, we use it for blowing up air mattresses at the campsite, or I mean, you could even run a coffee maker, or, you know, maybe some small appliances. If you had like an older microwave that was less than 1,000 watts, you could run a microwave off this. You know, when we go to the craft and art shows, you know, we can maybe run lights or charge up devices, or, you know, whatever you need to do. My son has a drone that has one of those big pods where you can put a bunch of batteries in there and charge your drone batteries all at once. So we can plug that in here when we're on the go now. So, I mean, the possibilities are endless when you've got true 120 volt, you know, AC power on board. So this is really cool. This project took me, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours total. And I've still got a little, you know, some odds and ends here and there to patch up. Like I said, I want to kind of seal off that grommet under the dash, and maybe get some protective wire loom to put on the wire under the hood there. You know, just some odds and ends. But yeah, this is awesome. Nice little project. And now the two things that were missing from this truck from the factory, the under seat storage and the 115, 120 volt AC outlets, I've got both of those things now. So cool. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll talk to you later.